So, before I get down to the business of the rest of my day of, you know, being a smart ass, wearing a cop hat, exposing the truth and the corruption by the KCPD and all of the wrong things they are doing to me, I want to share with you all something else, okay? So, this is my son's father, Thomas Hendren. Thank you, Kansas City or KC Law Enforcement Accountability Project, for posting this memory of Tommy on there. Now, this is Tommy's senior picture in 1984 next to our son races in 2023. So, if you read on that memorial thing, KCPD wrote that Tommy came out of the house he was barricaded himself in. Now, mind you, I was incarcerated at the time. I was not out here to know what happened personally, but I have spoken to people who were personally there, including the man whose house that the KCPD shot up my son's father in. Okay, sorry, I get a little upset when I talk about this because this is entirely messed up to me. Okay, so I knew Tommy for 8 years, We had a tumultuous relationship. We had a son. He went to prison when our son was 2 months old. But Tommy was not a bad person. He was kind of spoiled. Actually, he was very spoiled. He was basically like, he was 15 years older than me. He was basically like a 40-year-old man-child, okay? But he was not a bad person. I never saw that man with a gun the whole time I knew him. And we had a child together, whatever. I ended up leaving that child with my aunt and uncle when he was 3 years old because I got incarcerated myself. And I decided he was just better off there, because I was still engaged in bad stuff back then myself. Tommy was in prison, So I did one of the hardest things I ever had to do, which was also one of the best things I ever did. And I left my son where he was better off, where he has had a better life than he would have, being around us. So in 2013, I'm incarcerated by the federal government, and I get a call telling me that my son's father's been killed. And, I heard stories from people on the phone, incarcerated, and people don't want to really talk about too much on, prison and jail phones. So when I get out, though, and I moved back to Kansas City in 2019, I talked to the people who were actually there, including the man whose house this took place at. So the KCPD writes in their reports that Tommy came out of the house and shot a gun at them, and then they didn't hear anything for a while or whatever it says, and then so they walked around the house and they saw him on the ground with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Okay, I'm here to tell you that is not true, okay? Because I know, like I said, the man whose house this took place in, and another witness who was there, who sat and watched the whole thing, and they actually lit that house up with gunfire so bad it was ridiculous. A total excessive use of force. And all Tommy did was come out and take a little .22 and shoot it off to the side. He didn't even shoot it at the police. But they lit that house up with gunfire. They shot him 11 times, okay? They hit him with bullets 11 times, but they fired way more shots than that. So, perhaps maybe he did put a bullet in his brain because he'd been shot 11 times and he was suffering on the ground, And, but the fact that they would lie about this and say that they never shot him, that he just shot himself, is entirely ridiculous and sick to me. Because they know damn good and well that they shot that house up. Other people know they did. And they're lucky I wasn't out here when it happened in 2013. Because I would have been on a whole mission back then. Because, like I said, my son's father and I, we hadn't been together since our son was a baby. But we were still friends. Tommy was not a bad person. Yes, he had been engaged in criminal activity in his life, but he was not a bad person. He was not a violent person. Now, he had been at times when he was whacked out on drugs, but nobody's perfect. Plenty of us out here have had drug addictions, so, but he wasn't a bad person. Like I said, him and I were friends. And the fact that they are lying about him and what they did to him also entirely pisses me off. And now they're trying to do similar things to me. And I'm not even doing anything wrong, okay? He did get himself engaged in some crazy behavior, and it's something I felt guilty about because I felt like had I been out here, maybe I could have talked him out of, getting himself involved in what he got involved in. But he didn't want to die. He wasn't a bad person. And, it's just entirely messed up to me that the police continue to do this type of thing to people and then lie about it, At least just tell the full story. Be like, hey, yeah, he did this. He came out, he shot the 22 off to the side, and we lit the house up with gunfire. Oh, and then they proceeded to high-five each other and laugh about it. They laughed. And then, so, a lot of people maybe don't know this, but if the police shoot up somebody in your house or, whatever, they don't come and clean up the crime scene. So friends of his and mine had to go in there and proceed to pick his brains and his teeth off the walls of the house and clean the blood off the white carpet. Now, the man whose house this was, he was totally traumatized by it. He disappeared for 2 years. So, tell me how that's okay that they did this. I mean, okay, so some guy comes out, he fires off a 22 to the side. Was there really a reason to light the entire house up with gunfire and hit him 11 times and fire way more bullets than that? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that's an absolute excessive use of force. I think it's messed up. And I just want people to know that Tommy was not a bad person. He did not deserve what they did to him. And they're lying. They're lying. Okay? And I feel like now that they want to kill me too. Well, if that's what they think they need to do, they have that to do, as I've said before. But I just want everyone out here to know that my son's father, Thomas Lee Hendren, was shot by the KCPD 11 times. That is a fact that can be proven by the statements of multiple witnesses that they failed to provide in their, narrative of events. So, KCPD, when you're done, I'm going to keep exposing you. I'm not going to stop. So what you probably should do is stop maliciously prosecuting me, stop harassing me, stop sending me bullshit citations in the mail for shit I didn't do, and maybe you should reevaluate your ethics and your conduct, okay? Because you are wrong. It is a well-known fact in this country that you're one of the most corrupt, biased police forces in this nation. It's a well-known fact. You've already been under investigation by the Department of Justice since 2023, and you're about to be again. Thank you. Happy patrolling, guys.